Officer Sullivan is still him, but every time I see him, he's eating a donut and some coffee.
No, he isn't.
Yeah, all the time. He's never working.
Gives back to the community. He's
always
a great coach.
chasing her, watching the Dubs. What, like, Officer Sullivan, what you doing? Oh, I'm just chilling, watching Curry get buckets. Damn, must be nice. Must be nice, Officer Sullivan. All right. All right, we got Slater. Let's get to Slater down in Dallas. Slater. Anthony Slater, the one and only, the athletic, 95.7 Game Insider. He's down in Dallas, covered the Golden State Warriors, of course, and he does it all season long. Anthony, good morning, my man. What's going on today?
I'm actually between Oklahoma City and Dallas right
Really?
now.
Oh, were you in OKC last night, watching them against the Pacers?
Yes, I went to the last two Thunder games. Just wrote a Thunder story that I'm sure all the listeners love.
Wow.
Well, I did see your headline. I wasn't going to bring it up, but Chet and SGA to have a chance to win the Rookie of the Year and the MVP probably won't happen, but very good headline there. It got me, Anthony, on that headline.
It hasn't been done in the NBA top two finish because they're both probably going to finish second. Let's be honest. Right. Hasn't been done in the NBA since 2001, 2002. There's no way you can name the last two that did this on the same team.
2001 to 2002, second in the MVP and second in Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
2001, 2002. Wow.
Stevie franchise and Yao Ming.
I mean, I actually really like the creativity of that guess, but no. New Jersey Nets. Can you name them?
Jason Kidd and Kenyon Martin.
Richard Jefferson. Pau Gasol, and the Kidd was second behind Tim Duncan. Wow. And they went to the finals that year.
They did go to the they went back
Kerry
to back.
Kittles, bro.
Yeah, no, Jason Kidd. Wow, that's a good. Wow.
Keith Van Horn.
I would never guess. I would have said my second guess would have been Kenyon Martin. Then it would have been Keith Van Horn. Then it would have been.
Y'all are underrating Richard Jefferson, it sounds like.
Yeah, we are. He did have a good run in New Jersey.
If you say Keith Van Horn, I say Michael Doliak. I don't know why.
You say Michael Doliak, I say Andre Miller.
See, that's a good one.
And then Anthony Slater says Rick Majerus.
What's going on here?
And then I say Triangle and 2, in which they beat Arizona with in the Elite Eight down at the Arrowhead Pond.
I'll tell you what's going on. We're two old heads talking about old college basketball.
All right. Let's get back to the Warriors, man. Stephen Curry. Good news for the Warriors. Stephen Curry cleared the practice, Anthony, right? We could expect them. It seems like all signs point to them. Curry returning Saturday night at Crypto.com Arena against the Lakers.
I'll just say this. If there wasn't a very solid chance he was going to play in L.A., I would be surprised that they would fly him to L.A. for the practice, right?
Right.
He's got to get through the practice. He's got to get through even today, doing workouts in the Bay and make sure the ankle feels good. So I wouldn't expect like a full clearance till at minimum like 24 hours before where they put in the injury report, but maybe even day of. But trending that direction.
So I'm looking at this team right now, and obviously with Steph returning to the lineup, that changes things. But let's just talk about tonight. I feel like it's a huge Draymond Green game. They're going to need Wiggins to be the defender. They're going to need Kaminga to be out there to be a defender on the perimeter. What is the starting lineup if you're penciling it in for tonight's game against Dallas if you want to win?
I would probably imagine it is the same as the last game, which is that more like veteran-infused lineup where, it's Chris Paul, Clay, Wiggins, Kaminga, Draymond. I remember Steve Kerr before the first non-Curry game, he basically was essentially saying, we're going to try a bunch of lineups till we figure out what works without Steph, because Steph changes so much. And I do think they weren't a little ambitious with that Draymond TJD front line with not enough spacing in the first Spurs game. I think they kind of found a nice rotation in the last one. I know it was the Spurs, but it just flowed better. The rotation felt better in that San Antonio game. So usually when they find something like that, they just go right back to it.
I'm with you there, Anthony. I figured they would try out the same lineup and said it because if they started, Shaq and I were talking about it. He was like, maybe TJD, and it feels like the Mavericks try to pick on him a little later in this basketball game, whatever he does come in this basketball game, because Luka's on some heater. I mean, 35, 10, and 10.
The other problem?
What's that?
The other problem is Draymond's a center, so then you're playing two centers. I mean, he just is now, right?
He
so
is.
You're basically playing your starting and your backup center together, and teams don't really do that anymore.
Well, Anthony, he's a center, but Isaiah Thomas says he's also a point guard.
Yeah, well, y'all can debate Isaiah Thomas's, I guess, view at history, and he seems slightly bitter about some of the rhetoric, it seems.
Yeah, I'm leaving that one alone, and we're staying away from that one. Just
Just saying what Isaiah Thomas said.
Yeah. I'm
Sorry.
back office.
You're going to catch a stray.
No. Don't talk about that. We're good over here, buddy. We are good. Isaiah, I don't know what the hell he was talking about. Anyway.
Back to Kaminga.
Back to the Warriors. Steve Kerr mentioned how he believes this team can still make a deep run, but 18 games left. 3 games out of that 7 spot. It's going to be tough to catch Sacramento and or Phoenix. And then it's going to be tough to catch the Mavericks here. So, look, I know Steph's not going to play tonight, so how did they try to pull this off against the team? Like, Luka, I want to talk about Luka for a second. 7 straight triple-doubles, Anthony. 35, 10, and nearly 10 since January 1st. This guy's, I don't know if he's going to win the MVP, but damn, Luka is probably playing as well as he's played, and I don't think he's in his prime yet.
Yeah, I was actually looking at MVP odds last night doing that Shea story, and he's third. It's Jokic has now become somewhat of the runaway favorite. Shea is second. Luka's third. If the Mavs were just like a 3 seed, Luka might be the favorite, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the stats back it up. But they're just vulnerable, right? Defensively, they had a stretch recently where I think they lost 5 of 6, and they were like the 30th ranked defense during that stretch. Kyrie is as spectacular as he can be offensively. Is that the right pairing next to Luka, who also can be kind of vulnerable defensively? I guess I liked what they did at the deadline, solidifying some of their rotation, but they still feel a little bit thin. Like, they're going to be really tough to beat tonight, particularly for the Warriors team without Steph in Dallas. But I think wider scope, if you're one of those top teams, and, I'm talking to plenty of, people around the Thunder, people in Oklahoma City the last few days, Dallas almost, to a lot of those teams up top, I think looks like the target you want in the first round.
Wow, there's a lot going on here. And they have to win some of these games, though, down the stretch in these matchups against Dallas to give themselves some hope to know that they can do it. I'm looking at Jonathan Kaminga right now, and boy, he feels like their second most reliable scorer. I don't want to disrespect Clay because Clay's been really efficient, especially since Curry went out. How does he keep this thing going, though? It feels like they're getting him the ball in spots where he can thrive. I feel like they've made the adjustments as a team.
Yeah, I think Chris Paul really found him a few times in the last game, having him out there helps. But, missing Steph's gravity pull hurts Kaminga, right? The way they went small and had, within a Steph lineup where he was starting and being featured, I think has really helped them. They do some inverted screens where Steph screens for Kaminga or Clay screens for Kaminga. It's almost impossible to guard, especially if you have floor spacers next to them, because guys can't, you can't just double off Steph or, hedge. So, or Clay, for example, as a screener, and I think Clay's become a better screener. But to your grander point, yeah, I do think he's become their second best scorer, second most reliable scorer. I think they've wanted that. I think Draymond Green has tried to push that into reality with some of the stuff he said and what he, how he tries to goad it out of Kaminga behind the scenes. And that's how it should be, right? Third year, with the capabilities that he has to put pressure on the rim, with what they do, what they need on this roster, he should be pretty much around 20 a game, with the efficiency fluctuating a little bit. But, and that's the thing. To me, it's not necessarily about the raw point total. It's at the end of the game. Is he 9 of 14 or is he 6 of 15? That to me, signifies what type of game he had.
Anthony Slater here on the Roast on 95.7 The Game. Our 95.7 The Game insider does a terrific job covering the Warriors, and he's just a hoop geek. He was just in OKC watching them play 2 times. He'll go up to Sacramento, watch a game there. He's truly an NBA junkie here. Do you remember the way Dallas plays Draymond Green? I remember when they had Brunson, they would put Brunson on Draymond to try to take away his passing, and they would not leave him open, as other teams do. The way Dallas plays Draymond is a lot different than other teams. Do you notice the same thing, Anthony?
Yeah, there's been times, playoff series, I think teams reveal different strategies. They try different stuff in game 2 that they might not try in game 5. But, yeah, they're certainly not as egregious as, a Memphis or pretty much almost everybody at this point, although I feel like Memphis really started it, which was, back way off. But, I remember Luke Walton with the Lakers did it, super egregiously early on. But at this point, I'd still kind of be surprised if Jason Kidd has somebody really pushing up on Draymond tonight, especially with no Steph, because that's what you're most worried about when you don't push up on Draymond, is that he's going to do the DHO game with Steph.
Right.
No Steph tonight, you got to worry less about that.
Yeah, no doubt. But Draymond is shooting the ball well, but it just feels like they're going to have to, especially tonight. This isn't San Antonio who has 14 wins. They're going to need some extra offense from somebody here. And do you think Wiggins coming off that game, and I know it's San Antonio, but boy, he was playing well before he stepped away, came back for 3 games, didn't look right, looked like the guy we saw in November and December and early January. Where is Andrew Wiggins at now? Because if Steve Kerr bitches this over and over that, hey, I believe this team could make a deep run, they're not making a deep run if they don't get the two-way Wiggs we saw. I mean, 2022 seems like a stretch, but even if you don't get the guy for 16 games before he stepped away, they're not making a deep run without Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. Maybe they want Minnesota in the first round for that reason, right? Wakes them up a little bit. But, I thought he was solid in San Antonio. And from a score, you don't want to go into a game saying they need 26 from Wiggins or something like that. Then you feel like you're back in like early Minnesota days. You want to just be like, yeah, we have chip in 17 and play good defense and grab some rebounds and just play with some effort and energy. And guard, right? He guarded. Remember how well he guarded Luka in the West Finals?
Oh, we can't forget it.
Yeah,
we will never forget.
In Dallas, which remember that dunk?
Right. Oh yeah. Mark Davis almost ruined it. The referee, crew chief of that, called the charge on Wiggins.
That's right. That was like probably Steve Kerr's best challenge ever. But so you're going to need probably at least 2 guys that have like chunk scoring nights tonight. You probably want it to be Kaminga and Clay. That seems like that's more of a Warriors type game. Chris Paul chipped in the other night. I mean, maybe he can score a little bit more. But Wiggins, as long as he's playing with effort and energy and scoring in small doses, I think you're okay with it. And we'll see. I would say, like I said, I'd say the last couple games are trending better than his first few back.
The Wiggins conundrum. So, Kevon Looney, what has happened? What has happened to Kevon Looney this year? Because B and I were talking about it earlier this year. He looked even more like he was laboring this year more than any other year. What exactly has happened to Kevon Looney? Because I'm very surprised the whole season, not just him not playing, he has not been a factor at all.
Yeah, I think it's a combo of things. I think it starts outside of him, the context outside of him. He's always very reliant on the group around him, and that group being that championship lineup they came in with that honestly before the season we probably would have considered maybe the best lineup in basketball next to Denver's, just considering what they had been numbers-wise the previous 2 seasons. And that, Looney survived in that lineup because they spaced enough. Steph and Clay, provided what he didn't, and he could kind of do the different screening actions, rebounding, all of his stuff. They cratered. Wiggins couldn't hit a 3. Clay couldn't hit a 3 early in the season, and then suddenly it was like there was no spacing out there. And then I think that shines the spotlight on the Draymond Looney front line. And so suddenly they ripped him out of that lineup and started putting him in these various combinations that just his game doesn't fit. He's a pretty unique player that, like I said, is relying on his environment. And I just think the environment around him, really hurt him this season. And then beyond that, I would agree that he just looks a little bit more physically limited. He's had to, I know he's hurt. He recovered from it, and he had this long 254 game streak that he was really proud of. But he also had 2 hip surgeries. He had a core surgery that was pretty major. He's had dietary issues, gut issues, neuropathy. Remember early in the season, 4 years ago, when he had the hamstring injuries that were nerve related, kind of beat up for his age. I know he's only 28, but so maybe you're seeing some of that pile up. He's had to add a lot of bulk over his career because he's become a traditional center when he came into the league. It's a 4-man, a wing almost.
Right.
Remember how skinny he was? Go watch his early year highlights. So I think all of that is kind of added up, and he's just looked a little bit more limited. All
right, last one for you, Anthony, because you are tapped in with this fan base left and right. You see the tweets. You know how Warrior fans are. They want championships. But aside from winning a title, how can this season end in a way that leaves Warrior fans feeling satisfied?
I think Kaminga looking really good through the playoffs, right? Where it's you can even get to the second round, and sure, maybe you lose in 6 games, but Kaminga's averaging 22 on good efficiency and just looks playoff ready, which would mean, you have your potential number 2, number 3 type guy moving forward, or you have one of the best trade assets in the league into the summer, depending on how you want to build the roster. I think that's massive. Some of the other younger guys help in, and then I think fans can answer it themselves, whatever their internal expectations on this team actually are. I mean, are they okay if they, upset Minnesota in the first round and then lose in the second round of Denver? Like, is that satisfying? I don't know. I mean, if their answer is like championship or I'm upset, like, you're probably going to be upset. Let me break some news to you. But I think there are still ways where you go into the offseason feeling good about what this core, can be.
Interesting stuff there. Shasky, I wanted because Shasky was asking, he said earlier, we were having this conversation, I'll get you out of here with this one. Is this a more desirable destination than it was last year? And it feels like that, but I'm not sure how much wiggle room they're going to have in the offseason with all the contracts or whatnot, and trying to get under the second apron and first apron and all that. But I would agree with Shasky, it's a more desirable destination, but how many players would be willing to go to a team with aging superstars when you look around the Western Conference and the landscape of it, and the league is getting a lot younger, especially in the West?
Yeah, and like desirable is a lot less, I don't want to say it's less important than it used to be, but like free agencies, like everything's done prior to free agency now. Extensions, like, who's going to be the top free agent this year? Like Klay Thompson's going to be among like the top 5 essentially. So, you do want to lure the next guy, whoever wants out, to like want to get traded to you, to try to get pushed to get traded to you. So that does matter. But I do think they're desirable in a sense of like they need a number 2, like big wing next to Steph. But yeah, I do. Overall, what you're saying, I think the way that the ascending part of the roster, the younger part of the roster looks, makes it more believable to even a veteran minimum guy, a mid-level exception type of guy, like a DiVincenzo, an Otto Porter from a few years ago, to go, hey, I can go there and maybe be a helpful piece for a team with legitimate, at least fringe contending hopes. And then obviously the market helps, and just the brand and playing with Steph helps.
All right, Anthony. Have fun flying to Dallas. Should be a fun one there. Then, of course, we'll talk to you next week when they come back home, take on the New York Knicks. Big 2-week stretch for them, but the best news of the day for the Golden State Warriors is Stephen Curry will probably be back Saturday against the LA Lakers. Anthony, thanks for the time as always, brother.
Driving to Dallas, by the way.
Driving to Dallas. How long is that drive?
Oh, wow.
3 hours.
3 hours.
Do it in college.
What kind of car?
I'm going to Enterprise right now, basically, so I'll have to report back, but it'll be a decent car.
Drive Shasky's name. You may get 10% off.
Okay. All right. I like that. I will.
There you go.
Even in Oklahoma City, you think that?
Yeah. Hashtag hack.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's for me.
I wasn't expecting. Don't drop his name.
Yeah,
don't drop his name.
name.
Do not drop his name.
You know how people do that?
Charge 10%
Use our
more.
hashtag.
Yeah, you get charged 10% more dropping his name.
Hashtag Bonte.
Oh, man. All right, Anthony. Get out of here, man.
Promo code
Safe
Bonte.
drive down to Dallas. Safe drive down to Dallas.
See you, buddy.
Right, man. Going from Oklahoma to Texas.
Promo code
Texas.
The Volume.